In a remote corner of the African savanna, the village of Isokan thrived under the shade of a towering baobab tree. The tree was ancient, its roots twisting deep into the earth, and its branches sprawling wide as if embracing the entire village. For generations, it was said that the baobab had a spirit, one that protected the people of Isokan from droughts, plagues, and invaders, but the tree was not merely a protector, it was a storyteller. On nights when the moon hung low and full, the baobab whispered tales of bravery, love, and wisdom through the rustling of its leaves. The villagers would gather beneath it, listening with wide-eyed wonder as the stories filled the air. One fateful season, however, the baobab stopped whispering. Its lush green leaves turned brown and brittle, and its bark began to crack. The villagers were alarmed, for they believed that the tree's health was tied to their prosperity. Indeed, as the baobab withered, the village's crops failed, the river dried up, and a strange sense of sorrow blanketed the once joyful community. Elder Monsa, the village's oldest and wisest resident, called for a meeting beneath the baobab. His voice quivered as he addressed the anxious crowd. "The spirit of the baobab is in pain," he declared. "We must find the cause and heal it, or our village will perish." Among the crowd was a young girl named Adunni. Her name meant sweet one, and she was known for her kindness and curiosity. Adunni loved the baobab dearly. It had been her sanctuary during lonely days and her teacher through its tales. Determined to save it, she stepped forward. "I will find out why the baobab is weeping," she said, her voice steady despite the murmurs of doubt from the crowd. That night, Adunni packed a small bag with provisions, some yams, a calabash of water, and a slingshot her father had crafted for her. She stood before the baobab, placing her hands gently on its rough bark. "Tell me what troubles you," she whispered. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a single leaf fell, brushing her cheek as it drifted to the ground. Adunni took it as a sign and began her journey. Her first stop was the village's shrine, where she sought the guidance of the priestess, Mama Ikondeo. The elderly woman, adorned in beads and cowrie shells, gazed into a bowl of shimmering water. After a long pause, she spoke. "The baobab's sorrow is deep," Mama Ikondeo said. "You must travel to the forest of echoes. There, the spirit of memory resides. It knows the past and can reveal the cause of the baobab's pain. But be warned, the forest tests the heart of those who enter." Adunni thanked the priestess and set off at dawn. As she walked, the landscape changed from open savanna to dense woodland. The air grew cooler, and the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves surrounded her. Yet, beneath the beauty, Adunni felt an undercurrent of unease. The forest of echoes was aptly named. Every step Adunni took was accompanied by a chorus of whispers, as if unseen beings were mimicking her movements. The trees seemed alive, their gnarled branches reaching out like fingers. Her first trial came in the form of a river that cut through her path. The water was crystal clear but flowed with a deceptive strength. As Adunni searched for a way across, a voice called out from the depths, "Adunni, sweet child. Do you seek to cross?" Startled, she looked down and saw the shimmering form of a river spirit. "Yes," she replied. "I must find the spirit of memory." The spirit smiled, though its eyes were sorrowful. "To pass, you must give me something you hold dear." Adunni hesitated. Her most treasured possession was her mother's locket, which she wore around her neck. It was the only keepsake she had left of her, who had passed away when Adunni was a baby. But her resolve was firm. With trembling hands, she removed the locket and placed it into the water. The river spirit accepted the offering and parted the waters, allowing Adunni to cross. Though her heart ached, she pressed on. Further into the forest, Adunni encountered a maze of thorny bushes. Each step she took seemed to lead her back to where she started. Frustrated and weary, she remembered the stories the baobab had once told about patience and clarity. Closing her eyes, She listened to the whispers of the forest, which guided her through the maze. At last, Adunni reached a clearing where a massive, glowing tree stood. Its bark shimmered like silver, and its leaves glowed with an ethereal light. Sitting at its base was the spirit of memory, an androgynous figure with eyes that seemed to hold the universe. "Why have you come, child?" the spirit asked. Adunni knelt before it. "The baobab in my village is dying. I need to know why." The spirit of memory sighed, its expression sorrowful. "The baobab's pain is not its own. It carries the sorrow of your village, the unspoken griefs, the hidden fears, the buried anger. To heal it, you must confront these truths." With a wave of its hand, the spirit conjured visions of the villagers. Adunni saw Elder Monsa mourning the loss of his wife, who had passed away years ago but whose memory he never spoke of. She saw Mama Ikondeo's secret guilt over a decision she made as a young woman. And she saw her own father's silent pain over losing her mother. Tears streamed down Adunni's face. "What can I do?" she asked. The spirit placed a glowing seed in her hand. "Plant this at the baobab's roots. It will draw out the sorrows of the villagers and transform them into healing. But remember, the baobab's strength comes from the unity of your people. They must face their truths together." Adunni returned to Isokan, weary but determined. She called for another meeting beneath the baobab and recounted her journey. As she spoke, the villagers began to share their own stories, their griefs, their regrets, their fears. The air was thick with emotion, but as the words flowed, so did a sense of release. Elder Monsor spoke of his love for his late wife and the burden of carrying her memory alone. Mama Ikondeo shared her regret over a past decision that had shaped her life. Adunni's father spoke of the loneliness he had felt since losing his wife. One by one, the villagers unburdened themselves, and a sense of unity began to bloom. When every story had been told, Adunni knelt at the baobab's base and planted the glowing seed. The ground trembled, and the tree's bark began to mend. Its leaves turned green, and the air filled with the sweet scent of blossoms. A sense of peace washed over the village. And the river began to flow again. The baobab's whispers returned that night, carrying a new story, one of a brave girl who reminded her people of the power of truth and unity. Adunni's courage became legend in Isokan. The baobab thrived, and so did the village. The people learned to share their joys and sorrows openly, strengthening the bonds that held them together. As for Adunni, she grew into a wise and beloved leader, her name forever etched in the hearts of her people. And on quiet nights, beneath the shade of the baobab, she would tell its tales to a new generation, ensuring that the spirit of unity and healing lived on.